fam, days like this are special. They can define an era. There's something to remember, especially in the lean times, and we are, as Flyers fans, certainly in the lean times. My fandom, personally, I'm 36 years old. I was born in '88, so I missed, all of it, basically. All the good stuff in Philly I missed. My generation of fandom growing up is a few like almost seasons, the 93 Phils, which I don't even remember. I was 5. The 97 and 2010 Flyers, the '01 Sixers, Andy's Eagles, and then a lot of days like today. And while some may kind of criticize, a spurned fan base's continual emotional investment in something like a player who told you I don't want you, who just left us. I say this is what makes sports great. It's You get to be as ridiculous and emotionally unstable as possible in what is ultimately a meaningless way. And these are moments that draw fans together. And I think that's especially important at a time where there are so many opinions on what's going on with the Flyers, what they're doing, where they're going, what's the rebuild, the coach, the GM, the whole organization. There's varying opinions, and the fan base isn't exactly united right now. Let's put it that way. But it doesn't matter what you think of Danny and the Flyers organization right now, because if you're a Flyers fan, that means orange and black over everything. And today is a day we can come together to hate a kid who wasn't even alive for a bunch of the stories I want to tell next. And yeah, that's I recognize an insane thing to say in any other context, but this is Philly sports. And the reason we get so fired up is because we love this stuff, man. So let's remember that for one day, because I want to tell some stories that I think will mean a lot to a lot of people. And they're about days that were, from an outside perspective, kind of meaningless. But they're defining moments for me and who I am as a fan in this city. It's really what built me to love it to the point where I was like, yeah, I'm going to be a professional fan. Basically, I'm going to yell all my opinions and do it into a microphone and get paid for it. Like, these are the moments that I did this for. Because that old, no, the best revenge is living well. Not for me, dude. Nah, not for me. I need to throw all my feelings in someone's face to let them know exactly how bad they effed up. Because if you have what it takes to make it here in Philadelphia, if you have what it takes to be the guy in the number one sports town in the world, you'll live forever. Look right now at Jason Kelce. Where else could that happen? I'm not talking about, a generational quarterback. I'm not talking about, a two-way pitcher catcher or pitcher batter like Shohei Ohtani. I'm talking about, yes, maybe one of the greatest centers of all time, but a freaking center. We made him into a star, a national sports star. That doesn't happen anywhere but Philadelphia. I want to let everyone know how much it means to us, both the good and the bad, because everyone out there, like the future potential Cutter Gauthiers of the world, you should know, like, there's going to be bad. There's going to be days you don't love your job if you're playing here. But the good days, you'll know what it feels like to reach the pinnacle. Like the kind of sports love they make movies and documentaries out of, you'll know it. The thing you always dreamed of, being the king of a place, you'll have it here if you give us everything you have. And you don't even have to be a champion like a Jason Kelce or a Chase Utley. Yeah, that really helps. Don't get me wrong. But look at freaking like Vince Papale, man. Aaron Rowand smashed his face. He'll never buy a drink in this town. Jim Thome, who just chose us. He just chose us. That's all he did. And he was awesome. But he chose us. And so we'll always love him. Mike Richards gave us everything. Allen freaking Iverson. Think about, in this blue collar, sometimes a little jerky town, the dude who said, I don't really want to practice. When we're all about hard work, this guy worked so hard on the court during games that we were like, Does he need to practice? Yeah. Does he need to? We're talking about practice. Wayne Simmons. Was he a superstar? No. But he gave us everything. And so you'll see as many Wayne Simmons jerseys in the crowd at the Wells Fargo Center tonight as you will any player on the current team. I'll tell you that. Brian freaking Dawkins, man. Ike Reese. Ike Reese gave us everything for a couple of years and made a second career here. He's been on the air longer than he ever played football. And he's awesome, and we love him. Because he's a Philly guy. Charles Barkley. Forget it, man. Tommy Dreamer, the Sandman, the Blue Meanie. They'll always have us here. And I want people who choose to dismiss what that means to know it's going to be the other way for them. Because this is that important here. And if you don't want what we have, if you don't want that sort of level of importance being put on you, that sort of spotlight, it's best to find out now rather than, right before you're making the decision to give that player a franchise-defining contract. So, yeah, it's great we found out about Cutter Gauthier sooner than later. And just like the Flyers said, if you don't want to be here, we don't want you. That's 100% true. But I still want you to know what you're missing because this passion, strong and negative and toxic and unhealthy as it might be, is just a fraction of what you could have had if you'd made it here. And you should know that. And you should be made to realize that every time you come here forever. The stories I want to tell, I was just thinking about different, like these games where a either villain or a hero returned to Philadelphia and the reception they got equaled what they gave us. We were on full display in these, and yeah, some of them are real bad. Like, don't get me wrong. I want every time Cutter Gauthier touches the puck tonight to get booed real loudly. I want demeaning chants chanted at him. I want him to feel all of our sports hatred. Hatred's tough because, you hate a guy because he plays hockey. Yes, in this context, I do. We're talking about hockey. I hate him, the hockey player, because we're talking about hockey. Do I hate him like I hate evil people? No, because I'm not a lunatic. 100%. But so I'm not saying today's game should be like August 11th, 1999, when J.D. Drew came back and some people at the vet threw batteries at him. Now, it wasn't 60,000 people, the way you tell it, it's like, and we were raining down. It was a few people threw some batteries, but nobody should do that. That's horrible. Don't do that. But the reception Scott Rowland got August 15th to the 17th, 2003, and really every time he stepped back into Philadelphia, yeah, that's what I expect tonight. I was just thinking about it because I remember Rowland coming back and it being Sunday Night Baseball, and it was Amari Telemaco, and it was a weekend series. That makes sense. Why would the first game of the series be on a Sunday? It was 22 years ago. I don't have the best memory of it, but I do remember quite a bit of it. And I remember that Sunday Night Baseball game. It was Telemaco. Vicente Padilla started the first one on August 15th against Scott Rowland. They won that game. They won both of those games, actually. Rowland 0 for 4 on Friday and Sunday. But that hatred, that just anger that we threw at Rowland that day, the booing. I remember on Sunday Night Baseball, he's getting booed, fly ball to right, and Bobby Abreu slides to make a nice catch. And the announcers comment like, oh, yeah, the applause for the great catch was quickly destroyed, quickly ended in favor of more boos for Scott Rowland. That's what I want to see tonight. I want to make this an uncomfortable situation for Cutter Gauthier. There was a lot of these games I was there for, and these are really the games that shape me more than anything. Eric Lindros, I was at that one. His first game back in Philly, January 12th, 2002, with the Rangers. I was a big, and it's funny, it's almost lines up perfectly for a lot of weird stuff. The anniversary of the Cutter and Drysdale trade was January 8th. The anniversary of Lindros' first game back as a Ranger is January 12th. That day also overlapped with a Eagles playoff game. And Today's January 11th. There's an Eagles playoff game tomorrow. So we're like real close to just an odd coincidence here. But I was a big Lindros fan as a kid. Like I hated when they traded him. And I went to that first game back and I'm wearing a Lindros jersey there with some of my friends. And there's like grown men yelling at me, telling me, you better let us like draw on that jersey. We're going to cross out his name. We're going to write a bunch of stuff. Like I'm in middle school, dog. What are you going on about? Yeah, I was 13 years old, so I was in 7th grade. It's also the day of the final Berserk Postal Clerk show, and I only shout that out because there's like 6 people listening who are going to get that reference. Good day. Eagles beat the Bucks 31-9. Final BPC show at the Mantua VFW. And Eric Lindros' first game back, and he got destroyed. He gets called for diving in that game. Mark Recchi hooked him down, and the ref's arm goes up, and Recchi just turns at the ref livid, and the ref points at him and calls Lindros for diving. I've heard the Wells Fargo Center louder for playoff games, but that's it. Like, the biggest moment, sure, but that's really it. That's what I want. And, of course, the T.O. game, man. T.O.'s first game back, October 8th, 2006. That's probably the best sporting event I was ever at. I mean, the Lido interception, all that stuff. It was incredible. But the boos for him, some of the chants were in poor taste. Knowing what we know now about mental health, maybe some of that stuff should have been off the table, but it was a different time. I was just a high school kid. I had a single ticket in the very last row of the end zone. Lido returned the pick 6-2. I was all the way up in the very last row, and after the Lido shuffle played, after the fight song played, it was overcome with joy. It was so much freaking fun, man. And that's sort of the I had whatever the opposite of a panic attack is. I think I almost passed out from like too much joy that day. It was so much fun. But it's not just like villains, like, yes, and that's how we treat bad guys, but go back to 2009 when Dawkins came back as a Bronco. Go back to 2015 when Kimmo Timonen came back as a Blackhawk. The hero's reception, the coordinated at 4:44 on the clock, a standing ovation for Kimmo Timonen. And like the king of it was Chase Utley. August 16th, 2016, strikes out in his first at-bat, then hits a home run, then hits a grand slam, and he gets standing O's for hitting home runs against the Philadelphia Phillies in the Phillies stadium. That's what I'm talking about. You're a hero forever if you make it here. Cutter Gauthier didn't want that. So let's show him the other end of it tonight.
We all silly like the mayor.